Hi, I'm Nicole Durrani, and this is my presentation on the literary works of America as part of Course Reflection for American Literature 1. So, my expectations for this class included being expected to read narratives, biographies, and stories from different eras. I was also curious about the inspiration that writers had during early centuries, as well as unknown writers that were included within the course, besides writers like Edgar Allan Poe and Henry David Thoreau. I had some early challenges about writing essays about literary works that we read and crafting deep analysis on them, as well as intricating complex vocabulary and different narrative styles. And I was also able to learn how these works influenced American society. Some key moments include Civil Disobedience, The Masque of Red Death, and Upon the Burning of Our House. I really like these works the most, mostly because they talk about the historical and psychological context, include those contexts. Within Civil Disobedience, I really liked how Henry David Thoreau talked about against unjust laws that did not benefit Americans. With The Masque of Red Death, I really like how Edgar Allan Poe discussed how the rich tend to be very ignorant of people of poor societies. And Upon the Burning of Our House, I really like how Bradstreet talked about her relationship with God and how it references emotional health as well. One discussion that I really enjoyed was discussion 4, literary paragraph on Puritan literature. I really liked that discussion because I had talked about Anne Bradstreet's Upon the Burning of Our House and um, how important her relationship with God was, and how I was also able to talk about how emotional health is really important to have within modern society as well. I also learned the importance of historical literary and or cultural context within these stories and narratives. They're very important as they talk about um, how there's context for everything, such as Upon the Burning of Our House. Um, the psychological context being that Anne Bradstreet's devotion to her faith was a really important aspect of the poem. I was also able to learn about how literature shapes new ideas and concepts. Um, American literature, specifically what we read in class, we talked about sacred narratives such as from Native Americans and how um, that intertwines with historical context, and also how such as civil disobedience as well, um, the importance of historical context as well, and such as uh, rationalism as well, and the Declaration of Independence, that being historical context piece as well. Um, I also want to talk about how American literary writers are the foundation of modern American society. We tend to look um, back to many American novels from American writers within many classes from high school, such as The Great Gatsby, The Catcher in the Rye, The Giver. Those books are also an important part of American literature and what we read in class, and it was um, very helpful reading narratives and biographies within American Literature 1 as well. My favorite work was from Upon the Burning of Our House by Anne Bradstreet. Like I said earlier, Bradstreet writes about the loss of her home in a fire. After reminiscing on what she once had, she reminds herself of how she may have lost her material possessions. was still able to hold God in her heart and escape the burning home along with her family. It was really important to me to read the story because Anne's devout mind fighting against her emotional part was a very important aspect of the story, and how she showcased her Puritan beliefs in a relationship with God. She writes, "He might of all justly bereft, but yet sufficient for us left." Um, yes, while her home did burn down, she still had her family with her and was still able to survive. And she thanked God for that, because she may have lost her home, but she was still able to live and move on with her life. And she also describes within the poem about having a home in heaven with God, which I do believe was a very important aspect to her. But I also want to note that emotional health was important to have. And during this century and during this period, it wasn't really looked at as an important aspect of life. A lot of Puritan beliefs were more focused on their devotion to God, which is why I believe that her story or her poem is very important, and is a great reference as for religion. But it's also important to remember that emotional health and feeling angry or upset or um, um, or reminiscent is a normal part of the human mind and emotion. So I would say how I've grown. I've improved on sentence structure and vocabulary. I was able to really grow with this aspect within the first essay that we wrote in class. Um, we also delved into more literary works as well. I also delved into more literary works similar to what was read in class, and I found more interesting works with psychological and historical context. So I really appreciate that about the aspect of this class, because I feel like my essays were more advanced from my previous uh, classes. So, thank you for listening.